Okay, everybody, it's time to talk about Bob Dylan's Street Legal from 1978. This was kind of a hard time for Dylan. In 1977, the previous year, a lot of chaos happened. Dylan filed divorce with Sarah, and her and her kids. They I guess Dylan couldn't keep custody with his two kids that he had, and they moved her and Dylan's, I think it was his son and his daughter. They moved over to Hawaii, so he couldn't keep the kids anymore, and very hard time for Dylan in that year. Also, August, the summer of '77, was also the death of his hero, the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, and very sad time for Dylan. Very depressing. So I feel like Dylan had to really pick himself back up. This, of course, happened a little bit later in '77. He collaborated with his then who he was. I guess he was like a filmmaker. His name was Sam Shepard, and they both got together to do Ronaldo and Clara, which became a big debacle. That whole movie, apparently it bombed really, really bad. Of course, it was the footage from the Rolling Thunder review from '75, footage from in Boston, I believe, or whatever. You can actually find. I think I have. Most people have talked about this film. It's pretty weird. It's pretty meanderish, and it shows a lot of grainy footage of Dylan, and ever since the Rolling Thunder review, the actual movie directed by Martin Scorsese from 5 years ago, they cleaned most of that footage. But of course, that grainy old film is on YouTube. You can actually see it, and it's pretty bizarre. A lot of backstage, just nonsense. Yeah, so Dylan was in the midst of doing that. It was released in February of '78, and it tanked pretty bad. They took it out of a lot of theaters, and it just hasn't been released ever since. Never been officially released, but it wasn't until the Rolling Thunder review, directed by Martin Scorsese. During early in that year, he also went over to Budokan to record the live album that was actually released in Japan first before it was released in the United States a year later. It was called Live at Budokan, Bob Dylan. And the sound of Dylan was very, very, very different compared to that Gypsy, that Desire, just that whole Rolling Thunder, that whole repertoire, that was so cool with Dylan's style at that time of that mid '70s period. And he polished himself a bit. He has more of a horn section. He's got more of a female background, R&B a little bit. And that was sort of the big change in music of that time in the late '70s. Everything was getting a little bit more polished, a little bit more cleaner. You get a lot of more yacht becoming very, very big. The Sanford Townsend Band, and of course Bruce Springsteen, with Dylan putting in the saxophone in his music or whatever. And so, yeah, a lot of big changes was happening. Of course, Billy Joel was huge for The Stranger at the time. Bob Seger with his, Hollywood Nights, and just the whole music was definitely revolving a little bit more into just the straight, easy listening, a little bit on the safe road, if you will. And that was sort of a little peak of what Dylan was going to go for this album that's called Street Legal. It was recorded in Santa Monica, and it's 49 minutes long. And the recording of this album was pretty short. It was only like maybe it took like 11 or 12 days to make or whatever, between April and May. Produced by Don DeVito. And yeah, previous year definitely very kind of a bummed year for Dylan. And so Dylan really wanted to kind of reinvent himself, try to make up a new band, if you will. And he got together with David Mansfield, who was who's a violinist and whatever, and they collaborated pretty well with each other. And Dylan brought in some other people or whatever, people like Steve Douglas, Ian Wallace, who was actually from. Now I don't know if I think he played on some of the later King Crimson albums, but he wasn't King Crimson. Jerry Sheff, Bobby Hall, some of these people I don't really know much about. Yeah, so they all got together to make this album called Street Legal. Now, the theme of the album, there's definitely a little theme going on here, where Dylan seems to just focus on what's coming now, what's the future. He's trying to tell himself that there's new things ahead, there's better change, there's just a whole stratosphere of opportunities for him, and this was definitely a little bit of a hint of what's to come for his religious Christian phase there. Sort of a little foreshadowing, I guess, of what's to come. And I think this is a pretty good. I think this is actually a pretty solid album. I think, in my opinion, definitely maybe an underrated album, because I think not most people don't really talk up of this album as much. Some people think, Street Legal. It's just sounds like Gino Vanelli or something. At that time too. He was big with his album Brother to Brother. I Just Want to Stop. It really has a lot of that female. A lot of that. If you hear Gino Vanelli and then you go back to listen to Dylan, you can tell how different he was, or just so like, pretty crazy to really think of what Dylan was going through here. So yeah, I really love some of these songs. This only hit number 11, and there was a single from this album, only in the UK. It was called Baby Stop Crying. It was only a single in the UK. So, but most of these songs have been regarded nowadays, at least with the first track, Changing of the Guards, which in fact was the first song he composed. This was the first song he did for that album. And so, yeah, Dylan is looking for change here. He's looking for a better, new future, new endeavor or whatever. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Changing of the Guards. This is an excellent song. I really love the fade in, which is cool. It sounds like they're tuning up the mixers or whatever, and it's so cool. It's a really excellent song. And the background vocals are so amazing. Let me see who are the names. Okay, so Carolyn Dennis, Joanne Harris, Helena Springs. Those are the background vocalists. I'm trying to see what Carolyn. Okay, she mostly did stuff for Bob Dylan. And this other lady, Helena Springs, she would also sing background vocals for Dylan's preceding album, Slow Train Coming. But yeah, what a really cool, excellent opener for this album, This first verse here, 16 years, 16 banners. And you could tell just by those lines, just how much Dylan was like pushing himself to keep going, to keep making himself a better human or whatever, 16 banners united over the field. Desperate men, desperate women divided, spreading their wings neath the falling leaves. What a pure line. It's just it's just hoping for the better of Dylan, to keep himself not behind him, but keep going forward. Peace will come with tranquility and splendor on the wheels of fire, but will bring us no reward when her false idols fall, and cruel death surrender with its pale ghost retreating between the king and the queen of swords. Now, the king and queen of swords, I believe that's like a metaphor, I believe it's some sort of term for representing the swords or something like that. I'm not totally sure on that, but anyways, what a Wow, what a song, man! Changing of the Guards, man. And I really love the call and response of the female vocals. It's a thing you need to pay attention to. Yeah. Okay, and then after that is a New Pony. What a cool, a little bit of a bluesy type song here. Um, with this first verse, once I had a pony, her name was Lucifer. Um, she broke her leg and she needed shooting. I swear it hurt me more than it could ever have hurted her. Now I kind of see with this song. I feel like with this song, it just seems like it's really kind of a nothing song. But but it explains here that the song, which superficially concerns a pony called Lucifer, has broken a leg and needs to be put down, and has been interpreted as concerning Dylan's relationship. So at the time here, he was actually, while I was reading on Helena Springs, he was in a little bit in a relationship there with her. Um, uh, so yeah, this was recorded in May of '78. Um, yeah, it's a really cool. I love the just the grittiness of the song. Like just like that bluesy R&B a little bit, you know. And one thing that is a little bit frustrated on the album is that there's no harmonica on this album. I don't think Dylan didn't play. I don't think he didn't play harmonica on Desire, and I don't think not on this song either, or any of these songs, in fact. So yeah, really good song, New Pony. Then we get number three, track three here, No Time to Think. It's 8 minutes long, and I think this should have been a single. This sounds like a radio made song. You know, it definitely has that FM, ready for radio. I really love the violins in the song, played by David Mansfield, and it has a little bit of a swing feel to it. You know, a little bit of a I don't know what you would call it, like a three-time feel. And I love this line here. In death, you face life with a child and a wife who sleepwalks through your dreams into walls. You're a soldier of mercy. You're cold and you curse. He cannot be trusted, must fall. Loneliness, tenderness, high society, noirity, you fight for the throne and you travel alone, unknown as you slowly sink, and there's no time to think. And I love how Dylan emphasizes on there's no time to think. And the violin comes in. It's a really excellent production of a song, I gotta say. Man, bullets can harm you and death can disarm you. But no, you will not be deceived. Stripped of all virtue as you crawl through the dirt, you can give, but you cannot receive. God, just what a... Dylan can just come up with something on the fly and you know... And I feel like you can definitely tell of his motive here and his mentality and his mental, how he feels, you know. It just feels like he has no time. Like, it just feels like he's telling you, like, with all these things that you have going on, the one thing you should be focusing on is what's important, you know. And it just seems like there's no time to think, no time to, keep your mind focused, you know. Okay, and then we get the last song on side one. It's called Baby Stop Crying. And this really reminds me a lot of a Gino Vanelli, like I Just Want to Stop or whatever. Of course, this was a single over in the UK and not here. It just definitely has a little bit of a gospel R&B flavor track. You know, it's a little bit of a slow tune here. It's a little bit of a slow type song, a little bit of a slower song. You've been hurt so many times and I know what you're thinking of. Well, I don't have to be no doctor, babe, to see what you're madly in love. And of course the female singer, stop crying, baby, stop crying, stop crying. Anyways, it's a pretty good song. I like that. Then we get side two, if you have the LP, And by the way, I've heard that when it originally was released, of course, Columbia, it had a really muddy sound, and then when they re-released it much later on, the CD era, like 1998, 99, they cleaned it up a little bit, and it's part of the Columbia box set of the albums from Bob Dylan. But anyways, Is Your Love in Vain? I really kind of like this song a bit. You know, it's kind of not that bad. You know, it's kind of like a little bit of a sore thumb on the album. Um, I really do love some of these, lines or whatever. Like, well, I've been to the mountain, I've been in the wind, I've been out of happiness. I have dined with kings and I've been offered wings. I've never been too impressed. Or is your love in vain? I feel like he's, thinking of what happened to the past. Maybe a little bit of about Sarah or whatever. Then we get the second song called Senor, Tales of Yankee Power. I think this may be Dylan calling on Jesus or God or something. I've heard a lot of things. It could be pretty much anything, but I think it's about Dylan calling some sort of spiritual God or whatever. I mean, you could definitely tell here, Senor, do you know where you're heading? Lincoln Country Road or Armageddon? Seems like I've been down this way before. Is there any truth in that, Senor? So he's almost like speaking to some sort of somebody, some sort of whatever, you know what I mean? Okay, then after that is True Love Tends to Forget. I really love this song. I really love the intro of this song. It just really has that. It just has that easy listening, but it really is a powerful song. Um, Lines here such as, "You're a tearjerker, baby, but I'm under your spell. You're a hard worker, baby, and I know you well, but this weekend in hell is making me sweat. True love tends to forget." I feel like once again he talking a little bit on his past of Sarah and stuff, and he's looking more into the future here. And then we get the next song, We Better Talk This Over. I kind of like this song a little bit. It's a little bit with the horns and all that, and the saxophone. It kind of is, whatever. And then Senor, I want to go back to Senor a little bit. That has a little bit of a Desire gypsy sound, a little bit like a really good gypsy production, like a Desire song, whatever. But anyways, We Better Talk This Over. Once again, this is kind of a okay song. I'm not really big on it. It's once again maybe Dylan in maybe he's talking to himself or whatever, and maybe just think, hey, we better think it through here. We better just move on. We better keep going forward with our lives. Like, I guess I'll be leaving tomorrow. If I had to beg, steal, or borrow, I'd be great to cross paths in a day and a half. Look at each other and laugh. The vows that we kept are now broken and swept 'neath the bed where we slept. I wish I was a magician. I wish I would have had a wand and tie back the bond that we both gone beyond. So yeah, it just seems like Dylan, he wants to kind of maybe go back with Sarah, but then again, you definitely see what he's saying here. Then we get the last track on here, which is Where Are You Tonight? Um, it says here that the song is about the individual's enemy within. It says that critical interpretations of the song have been suggested that it references Dylan's divorce, as well foreshadowing or announcing his conversion to Christianity. Which is true. It definitely has a little bit of that in it a bit. Once again, it really has a nice gospel, and it really definitely, for sure, I believe that's definitely the truth there. Very true on that. You know, what good lines here, man. Journey through dark heat is you know, there's a new day at dawn, and I've finally arrived. If I'm there in the morning, baby, you'll know I've survived. I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm alive. But without you, it just doesn't seem right. Oh, where are you tonight? That's what ends Street Legal. Folks, let me know in the comments below what you think of this album. Now, this was actually shot. This photo here was actually shot in the studio in Santa Monica. But the next one here, a whole new period of Dylan. That's right. Slow Train. You get, the guys from Dire Straits, and, I definitely gotta say, pretty underrated album. It's not one of my favorites from, Dylan's output in the '70s, but it's pretty good. Leads into definitely a new period from, I think for sure, a trilogy from '79 to '81. But you could also throw in Infidels, because it definitely has a little bit of that. Some sort of spiritual, so you can have it as a quadruple, quadrilogy or whatever. But anyways, that's my review of Street Legal, folks. Okay, bye bye.